Sometimes you hear a story about someone and it just blows you away and you ask yourself, how? How were they able to do that? Well, that's what happened to me when I heard about the story of St. Josephine Bakhita. If you've never heard her story, I hope it blows you away in a good way as well. I'm going to get right to it. Here's a quote from her that blew my mind. In her words, "If I was to meet those slave traders that abducted me and those who tortured me, I'd kneel down to them to kiss their hands, because if it had not been for them, I would not have become a Christian and religious woman." How? How could she forgive, yet alone be thankful to someone like that? Here's her story. As an 8-year-old, St. Josephine Bakhita was abducted from her loving family by slave traders. She was bought and sold several times and was forced to become a Muslim. She was beaten nearly every day, one time so severely that she could barely move for a month and was often bound by chains. A most horrific event occurred to her when her breast, stomach, and arm were cut with a sharp razor and salt poured on the wounds to ensure terrible pain and permanent scarring. When she was 13, though, she was sold to a kind man who eventually brought her with him to Italy, where she was gifted to a family and became their nanny. At 16 years old, she was given to the Canossian sisters in Venice, who introduced her to Jesus. Through the teaching and charitable witness of the sisters, she began to understand and fell in love with Jesus. At 21, she was baptized, confirmed, and given her first Holy Communion. She became a sister when she was 27 years old, and at 33, she was assigned to a convent in northern Italy, where she welcomed guests and worked as a cook and sacristan. She was known and loved by all who interacted with her, as she displayed always kindness, a calm disposition, and a warm smile. She also didn't shy away from telling her story, including forgiving her abusers. The horrors of what she went through were never forgotten by her, and toward the end of her life, she would relive those horrific moments. But now, though, she faced them with the help of God's grace. Her last words were cries of love for our Blessed Mother. "If I was to meet those slave traders that abducted me and those who tortured me, I'd kneel down to them to kiss their hands, because if it had not been for them, I would not have become a Christian and religious woman." A saint's words that challenge us to forgive and to trust in God in the most challenging of times. Trust that He never abandons us. Trust that we will be with Him in the end. St. Josephine Bakhita, pray for us.